Okay, I think we're live. Looks like we have. Yes, we are live. Okay, cool. Looks like we have stereo sound today, and we're making another video. Been lots of things going on in the world lately. So, welcome back to the channel, and appreciate you, all of those that have watched. Not a whole lot of you, but we appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you are doing just wonderful today. And so, today we're going to be looking at a really important and frankly kind of a heavy topic about one that I think every church needs to consider today. Unfortunately, churches are becoming the um, targets of attacks more and more often, and it is happening more. Now, the likelihood of a church being attacked are slim, but they are becoming greater. I think we've got 150 some serious attacks or something that has happened, disturbances that have been recorded in the last couple of years. And so they are definitely on the uptick. And the one that happened yesterday in Minneapolis is pretty rare. We have a bunch of anti ICE protesters thinking that they could just interrupt a church service and walk right in there onto private property and disrupt the service. And so, that just brings us to the question, should a church have a security team? And I've got just a few thoughts on that. Should a church have one? Yes or no? And then, if yes, what are some of the things that we should think about? Now, this is just my opinion. These are my thoughts. I've been around churches a long time. I've been around some security stuff. Got family and security. Just some ideas. But again, you should probably consult your insurance for one, and then if you have a lawyer or anything like that for another. So this is not legal advice. This is just some thoughts. So the idea of whether or not a church should have a security team, it's a question that brings up a lot of feelings, right? Some people are like adamant, like, no, we cannot have one. We got to trust God, and we should just rely just on faith and prayer. And others might argue, that hey, we have responsibilities to take care of those that can't help themselves. We have responsibilities to take care of those that come into the building. And let's tackle this question here a little bit. And I think that you could get into it some theologically from the scripture, but I think it's honestly a pretty self-explanatory um, thing. So, should a church have a security team? Well, for one, it's not a one size fits all scenario, right? There's different sizes of churches. There's different age groups within the church. Our church is pretty rural. Our church congregation is pretty elderly. I'm not putting together a team. I might in the future. But what I do have is I have the mentality that it is my responsibility as the pastor to ensure the safety of everyone that walks through our doors. And that's a very large and statement that I want to ensure the safety that goes from the baby that's in the nursery to the kids that are in the junior church. I owe a responsibility to them to make sure that they are kept safe from predators, from people walking in the building and taking them, whatever. But it's my responsibility to ensure their safety. We have invited them into the building. We have opened the doors. They come in expecting it to be a safe place to be. Parents expect it to be a safe place for their kids, and so we take that responsibility very greatly, and we want to make sure and do everything that we can to ensure the safety of everyone that comes into our building, from the baby in the nursery to the 89-year-old man sitting in the pew. And that then obviously includes someone coming in with violent or intentions, whether to attack or disrupt or anything like that. And so I think what we're actually, if we're not willing to protect our people, I think it's kind of a cowardly way out. Uh, Pacifism is not something that is in the Word of God. Now, I want to say this, and I kind of hinted at it at the video that I made the other day. Last night we did a live stream and talked briefly about this subject. There's a difference between uh, accepting being persecuted for your religion and just standing there and allowing someone to come in and violently attack a woman or a child or somebody that's in the sanctuary in the church there, and any man that's not willing to stand up and protect them, you're just a coward. That's pacifism. Pacifism only works when you have others that are willing to do the dirty work for you, and so you can rely on them to do the dirty work so that your hands don't get dirty. Okay. So there's a difference between somebody coming in the church with violent motives or intent to attack or shoot up a church versus, let's just say, the government goes bananas, like happens in some countries, and they come in and they put a gun to your head or a sword to your throat and say, recant of your faith, and we'll let you live, and if you don't, then we're gonna kill you. That's persecution, and that's different. And I would hope that the Lord would give me the strength to deal with persecution and to die as a martyr for Him. But I'm not going to go looking for it. And just standing there, allowing someone to come in and shoot your church up, um, you're being a useless martyr at that point, right? That's foolishness, and there is a difference. And so, um, my personal opinion and belief, and I believe Scripture would back this up, is that uh, you should take care of those that you can. Okay, and so having a security team with that in mind, it's not about fear. I've got some notes here, so if you see me looking down, I actually typed some stuff up, and just because I want to stay on track. Um, and of course, as I'm saying that, I just lost track of what it was I was trying to say. Having a security team is not about fear. It's about stewarding the things that God has put you in charge of. It's about stewardship. It's about protecting the innocent. It's about protecting the weak. Again, going back to our church. Our church is small. We have an elderly congregation. I don't have a security team. I'm pretty well trained with firearms. I know the law. Um, I will protect my church. And if you walk through the front doors, I can see you and I will take care of business. Okay. And so it's not about fear, but it's about taking care of those that have come in and see the church as a place of safety. And we're going to do everything we can to ensure a safe environment where everyone can worship, serve the Lord without fear. I'd also say, sorry about the coughs. It's that time of year we get sinuses and all kinds of stuff going on. It's also about ensuring a safe environment. I mean, sometimes there's medical emergencies. There's all kinds of things, large crowds, maybe on big days, and you just need some security around to just kind of move things along, move people around where they need to go. And so, it's not just about protecting against an armed shooter, even though that's mostly what we think of. But there's a lot of things where having some type of security team could come in handy. And so while the decision rests with each and every church as to what they should do, and I'm here to be adamant about what you should do, but I do think it's something that you should consider, and I think that you should have some level of preparedness. This is a very proactive step. It's not a reactive one. So, so I got just a few ideas, a few things to think about here. If your church does decide to do a church security team or is considering some things, I just got, I think we got 10 thoughts that I put down, just 10 different things to think about, to consider. Again, going back to, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not pretending to be, um, just a guy that pastored a small church and got a background in doing some different things. So, um, first thing, number one, numero uno, assess your specific needs and risks. Don't just copy another church, right? A safety and security plan for a church that runs 1,000 is absolutely worthless to my church. It means nothing. And if I try to copy that and do it, it's just going to make people frustrated. It's not going to accomplish the goal. It's not going to do anything, right? And so you need to look at your specific needs. What does your facilities look like? What kind of area are you in? And are you in a high traffic area? Are you in a high crime area? Do you have a large children's ministry where you need to look at the safety and security of those children's? Basically, what you need to do is what we would call conduct a risk assessment. You need to look at everything, look at the big picture, and probably get some outside eyes on this would be helpful, and see where your vulnerabilities are. And then you can start to build a plan based upon your church's specific needs and facilities and all that kind of stuff. So assess your specific needs and risks. Define the roles clearly of your security. I mean, questions such as, are they armed or unarmed? Some churches have armed guards. Some have unarmed. Some have armed that you can see. Some have armed that you cannot see. And so A lot of people use their ushers. Are they really just ushers with a security mindset that they're helping out, or are they going to be dedicated, trained professionals? And so what that means is that you need to clarify their responsibilities, clarify their settings. Basically, like anything that we do in life, set clear expectations. What are the expectations? And make sure that the roles are clearly defined. Recruit the right people. Number three, recruit the right people. We're not looking for guys that are um, that anything sets them off. We need someone that is a calm temperament, that has the ability to make good judgment calls when they are under stress. Okay, sorry about that. You know, a lot of times, sometimes churches have police officers, retired police officers, that can at least help oversee, help get the right mindset, help recruit the right people. They can help you conduct the background checks that you need to be doing on these people. And so make sure that you're not just giving these roles to somebody looking to get into a fight. We're not looking to get into a fight. We're looking to provide safety for those that are there. So, provide comprehensive training. This is a very huge thing. Training should cover things such as de-escalation, first aid, emergency protocols. What are you going to do if you have an active shooter? We need to look at the legal aspects of self-defense, especially if you're armed. There's a lot of legal things that come into that. And how are we going to talk to one another? The larger the campus, the more buildings, the more rooms. How are we going to communicate with one another? So you need to have training. Uh, Develop emergency action plans. What are you going to do if there is an armed shooter that comes to the front door, the side door? What are you going to do if there's a fire? That's probably more likely to happen than maybe even a shooter. I don't know. What happens when you have a medical emergency during the middle of service? Brother Joe falls over. I've been in more services that have had an elderly person collapse in the middle of the service than I have had somebody coming through the front door. So, what is it? What is it you're going to do? And if you're going to have a security team, they should be in the loop on this. They should know what we're going to do. They should know the plan, and you should practice and have meetings regularly. Establish clear communication protocols. Number 6, establish clear communication protocols. How will your security team communicate with each other, with church leadership, with emergency services? Who's calling 911? Who's telling the pastor? Who's telling the staff, right? What is the communication that's going on so everybody is in the loop? A lot of people use earpieces for your actual security so they can talk to each other as something is going on. But again, at some point, you got to be able to have somebody that's going to make the call. We need to call 911, and who's going to do it? Okay. If at all possible. Number 7, integrate with local law enforcement. Build relationships with your local police, your local sheriff, your fire departments, and visit them. Have them look over your emergency action plans. Have them look for holes. Have them help you assess your needs, like we talked about. Number 1 at your church. Most of them are willing to help you out if they can, and so get their input. They like to know, I think, generally speaking, if you're going to have some sort of security. So they know that if they are responding to an emergency at your church, that, hey, these guys do have some sort of security presence on site. Focus on de-escalation first. We're not trying to hurt somebody. If somebody comes in with the intent to hurt our people, we will defend ourselves. But if at all possible, try to de-escalate. Maintain discretion and professionalism. Number 9. Security team should be a comforting presence. We're not trying to have an intimidating presence. I intentionally put a thumbnail on here with guys, in camouflage suits, big burly guys, right? Yeah, that's not really what we're looking for. Our security, for the most part, should be kind of low key. There might be events, certain things where your security needs to be a little bit out front, but we're looking for low key kind of stuff. And then regularly review and update your plans, your risk assessments. Things evolve, things change. We're talking about this in 2026 now. 30 years ago, this wasn't really something we were talking about. Threats have changed, things have changed, and so we need to make sure that we're staying up to date on the threats. And so now let's look at a couple things that we probably should not do. Make sure we're not arming untrained individuals. Again, going back to who you choose, who you select. Make sure they know what they're doing if you're going to be armed. I'd highly recommend doing background checks on your people. We do background checks on anybody that's going to work with children or any type of security work or anything like that. Again, we're putting people in a position of trust. We're giving them responsibility, and if you're going to be a part of that group, then background checks are non-negotiable. They just have to happen. Don't operate in secrecy in the church. The church should know that there's a security team. They don't have to know everything that's going on, but the general existence and purpose of the security team should be communicated to the congregation. We're not trying to hide this, right? They need to know that they're safe, and they don't need to be wondering why we got guys walking around in earbuds and all that kind of stuff. So don't ignore legal counsel. Again, it's always good to talk with someone that actually understands the laws in your states, in your individual state. Every state is different, whether or not, concealed carry, self-defense, use of force, and all these things when it comes to your church. You definitely want to get some legal advice and look at the laws for your state. And don't forget the sheepdog mentality. While vigilance is key, a security team should not appear overly aggressive or confrontational. Their role is to protect, not to provoke. I think of the idea of it's the sheepdog, the big, woolly-looking, hairy sheepdog that looks like they're not going to be able to do anything. That they're the ones that keep the wolves away, right? So we're not looking for a guy that looks like the wolf. We're looking for people to have the sheepdog mentality, that are willing to do what's necessary to protect those that are under their care. And so, the decision whether or not you want to implement a church security team, it's a pretty significant one. But in the current political environment that we are in today, the climate that we have, I think it's a conversation that every church needs to have. It's something you need to look at. Our church is small. Like I said, it's rural. It's elderly. Our security protocols are pretty simple. You can lock the doors once the service starts, and I can see who comes through the doors, right? And so they can be simple, they can be complicated, but it's something I think that most people need to at least consider. If you found this video helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and I think we're going to keep doing some live videos. Hit that notification bell, and I appreciate you watching. Stay safe out there, and if you got any ideas or thoughts or comments on this, please let us know below in the comments section.